Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Before I dive into Value Investors series and introduce the topic of value investing, here's a quote just for this episode. In my whole life, I have known no wise people over a broad subject matter area who didn't read all the time. None. Zero. You'd be amazed at how much Warren reads and at how much I read. My children laugh at me. They think I'm a book with a couple of legs sticking out. Charles T. Munger, or Charlie's Almanac. The wit and wisdom of Charles T. Munger. I'm holding this book up. If you're watching on YouTube, 521 pages of glory right there. Beautiful. Poor Charlie's Almanac. We have been uh, interviewing, as of the last year or so, value investors, world-renowned investors, value investors, with our co-host, Aleck Arena, founder of Arena Securities out of Australia, Perth to be exact. We've had unbelievable guests from Steve Baxter, who has a background in SaaS and technology and I might have said SaaS. No, technology, telecommunications. Got mixed, my wirings crossed there for a second. Telecommunications, um, internet, um, venture capital, just a unbelievable entrepreneurial story. Military at 15, I believe, started his business in his early 20s. Or one of his first business, his early 20s, creating such huge success, eventually selling that main business and becoming that Australian Shark Tank, one of the sharks investing in small businesses. So we've had the amazing Steve Backstrom, Luke Winchester, fund manager out of Australia. It's been a great mentor and friend of Aleck Arena, our co-host, who invests in small caps and comes on the show with regularity to share his wisdom. We've had Christopher Cullum Davis on the show, his grandfather, in this wonderful book on the Davis dynasties. It actually goes through his grandfather's biography and his family's background, his father having also been a renowned investor, still with us. So a third generation value investor, started out with like a small amount, maybe $50,000, and over 50 years turned that into 800 million. This is Christopher Cullum Davis's grandfather, who today Christopher, or Chris Davis, serves on the board of the Berkshire Hathaway and boards like Coca-Cola, and runs the his fund today in the many billions, managing everyday people, just like many of our listeners who want to make sure that their retirements are safe. So it's a third generation family. Like, the values of the value investors didn't get that passed on, but the values of the value investor has been passed on three generations. We've had Jordan Svetanovsky on the show, Pella Funds, managing many billions of dollars internationally with a different thesis than Luke or Steve or Chris. And we have many more amazing value investor guests coming on the show. It'd be a show in itself just to give each of our guests up to this point's biographies, which maybe I will do on another episode. But today I wanted to introduce what is value investing, some background and some thoughts that I have as a student and a culture advisor, someone interested in company culture and studying the culture of Berkshire Hathaway and the culture of the value investor. For me has been a profound experience from a culture perspective, because Berkshire Hathaway's culture is, I would argue, and I think Chris made this point implicit in his appearance on the Culture Matters podcast. Chris Cullum Davis, Berkshire culture may not show up on the balance sheet, but it influences all things related to the balance sheet, profit and loss, everything. And in my estimation, the culture of Berkshire Hathaway is a massive linchpin in the success of Berkshire Hathaway. And so hope to explore with my co-host Aleck Arena and guests over time as we do this series on value investing, both explicitly and implicitly, what is culture and what is the culture of Berkshire Hathaway, but what is the culture of value investing? What's the culture of investing outside of value investing? What do these things mean? What can we learn? What are the values of a value investor? So, value investing, as far as I understand it, was originated as a philosophy by Benjamin Graham and David L. Dodd. I hope I'm saying that Mr. Dodd right. They wrote a book called Security Analysis. L. Dodd. Um, in the right after the Great Depression. Ben Graham was an investor. He was a teacher. Yeah, David L. Dodd, Security Analysis. Benjamin Graham, for what I've learned of him, he eventually became a teacher to Warren Buffett. You've heard of Warren Buffett. He was a polymath. He was given an opportunity to teach math and English and another field, so multiple fields that don't necessarily overlap. He was an investor. He did very well, and then really was shocked by the financial crisis at the time, and maybe had this intuition of this idea to actually profit on the buy. He's when it comes to stocks, and this book, Security Analysis, which is damn well close to 1,000 pages long, it's going over in every which way this idea of, in a sense, profiting on the buy when it comes to buying a business. He's saying the stock market, he would say the stock market is a voting machine and a weighing machine. It's a voting machine in the sense that people they base their investments on emotion and feeling, and in the end, in the short term, it's a voting machine. Sorry. In the long run, it's a weighing machine because ultimately the intrinsic value of the business will reveal itself over a long period of time. The idea of the value investor, at least in his day, was looking at the actual reports and reading through the numbers and understanding what the assets were worth and what actually was happening with the business, looking at a stock as if you actually worked inside of it as a worker. Like this is actually a real business that's going to have ups and downs and it's going to make money or lose money, not just what the ticker price said. So even that concept at the time was likely a paradigmatic shift from many of the people that made money on the stock market, trading on information, speculation, intuition, and so on. It was a much more, yeah, look at the title of the book, Security Analysis. A security is, if I understand it correctly, the um, the business open to the public, right? It's a you could have a piece of a business that is being promoted on in the markets. You can have you invest in that security, becomes a security. It's not a private business anymore, it's a public business. And they're analyzing the actual information available to the public, reading through the financial statements and understanding the quarterly and annual reports and interviewing people. Well, now I guess it's different today than it was then, but in a sense, getting to know the business at the base of it rather than just going on, all right, it looks like the stock is going up. Why is it going up? Is it going up just because it's going up and people are excited about it and they're not even sure why they're excited about it? It's like the game of telephone when you tell one person if you're all sitting in a circle and one person says a word to the person on the right, by the time it comes to the original person from their left, it's a completely different word. That phenomenon occurs in the stock market through speculation. And so Ben Graham pioneered this concept of analysis, and Buffett, who had read this book as a child, when he was turned down from Harvard and he was looking for another college to go to do his post grad work, uh, he found Columbia and realized that David L. Dodd, was alive, and he wrote a letter to these guys and ended up taking their class and being one of the best students. Buffett had a fun in the beginning, and he started off with cigar butts, and the idea behind the cigar butts was reading copious amounts of literature to figure out, can I buy this business for less than it's worth and get that last puff ultimately. In short, that's like a very short version of where value investing started, was this idea of understanding the business separate from the stock and looking for inefficiencies ultimately in as a consequence of the speculation and the euphoria of the crowd, and profiting on the buy, buying things for less than they were worth. The reason I held up this book and our exploration as we interview value investors of today, some that have been in the business for decades and others that are newer in the business, and we project into the future, what's the future of value investing through these interviews and through this research and through these conversations, drawing on culture advisory work with small businesses. What are the stories? What are the values? What are the symbols? What are the rituals, etc., that make culture work? I'm holding up this book, Poor Charlie's Almanac, because I think inside of it and within the relationship, or with respect to the relationship of Warren Buffett, the value investor, or the securities analyst, the cigar butt enthusiast, the savant, the genius of securities, and his friend, advisor, architect, as he said in the letter that came out after Charlie's passing, November 28th. Was that 2024? Yeah, I believe. 'Cause he was born in 24. Yeah. He was born he was born on November 28th. He passed away. I'm sorry, he was born on January 1st and he passed away November 28th. Charlie Munger. We miss him still. Yeah, he was born January 1st. He was almost 100. 99, 99 years and 11 months or so. Passed away November 28th, 2024. 2023. Oh my God, I can't get my facts straight today. Was it 2023? Yes, it was, because it was about to be 24. He would have been 100. He would have been 100 because he was born January 1st, 1924, I believe. So January 1st, 2024. Holy moly. That's cool. It's amazing to think about. Passed away. But so the relationship, that's a TDM. Too emotional. My mind's racing. Charlie Munger. So the relationship between Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, there's something in that friendship, in that partnership, in that mentor-mentee relationship that I think speaks to the culture of Berkshire Hathaway, but speaks to the culture of value investing, to the values of value investing, curiosity, skepticism, thoughtfulness, you know, the dynamic between Warren and Charlie, right? Charlie being um, the no man, or was it the indefatigable no man or something? The indeterminable no man, Warren asking him his thoughts and him telling him the truth if and when he called him. the spirit of that partnership or that spirit of that friendship, the spirit of, one thing I've recognized from value investors is the spirit of collaboration, the spirit of desire to share and to think and to learn and to grow. There's competition, but there's a spirit of collaboration that trumps the impulse to competition that seems evident in the culture of value investors. And you think like, and Charlie's mentioned this in the past, what is investing if it's not value investing? What does that even mean? And the the philosophies, the witticisms, the aphorisms, the 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 ritual of every year all of us making a pilgrimage to Omaha, Nebraska to experience the thoughts and insights of these two leaders. It's like a giant team meeting for all those that participate in this company, in this culture, in this story. There's a powerful story behind the idea of value investing. We're in for the long term if we can be. We're buying a business, what actually happens, not what we think is happening or what's being perceived to be happening by the culture. We're using a combination of, um, as McGilchrist would say, the master and his emissary. The master, as in the right brain, the creativity, and attention to reality, the potential as a whole, and the emissary, what is right before us, what is what is at hand, what's within our grasp right now in this moment. That the both the left and the right brain working together, but being but being a part of two completely different realities if it's up to them, but complementing one another. And that my lay person understanding of Dr. McGilchrist's work will be flushed out very soon as when he comes on the show. I'm still in preparation for that one. But amazing book, The Master's Emissary and The Matter of Things, two astounding books that I think can teach us a lot about value investing, believe it or not. Because you have this guy, think about this, the pioneer, the progenitor of the concept of value investing. Ben Graham was this polymath. He was this math and English. He was this, humanities and mathematical mind come together. This outlier, this maverick, um, this skeptic slash idealist who had this mentee who was this savant, mathematical genius and die-hard competitive, all in. I mean, let's look at his career. Warren from 13, I think he did his first tax return, something like that, to he's going to be, is he 90? He's going to turning 95 soon because his birthday is August 20th, or I think August 20th or August 28th. But when is Warren Buffett's birthday? Warren Buffett's birthday. August 30th. Oh my God. I gotta get my facts straight. How about that? I go August 20th or August 28th. It's August 30th, 1930. And Charlie was January 1st. Yeah, that I had right. All right, let's feel a little bit better. Yeah, January 1st, 1924, passed away November 28th, 2023. And Warren is August 30th, so he's going to be, I believe, yeah, he's 94. He's turning 95 soon. So, from a early teenager, he was paying attention to stocks, paying attention to money. He had a money mind, as he puts it. And the meeting of these two minds, Charlie being a background in law, having worked with the the U.S. military, making sure planes didn't crash. Something it was in meteorology or something like to that effect. Turned lawyer, turned investor in real estate. Even though he wasn't necessarily, this is the interesting thing about Charlie. He wasn't necessarily the investor in real estate. He was a co-investor in an operating principal. He was always that advisor. He was always that person believing not only in the business, but in the person. It was like he had this acute understanding. And this is where I think it's interesting. And I haven't read enough. I've read a lot of the literature, but not enough to me explicitly screams out this dynamic of Charlie. Charlie was really looking for the man. Like he eventually invested in Lee Lu many years later, but I think it was Otis Booth that they did real estate together in the beginning. And he was not only looking at the business, because they've said, a bad business meeting a good management, it'll be the bad business that keeps their reputation. He wasn't just looking to the good business. He had an eye on or keen eye for that person, right? For that person. There was a real estate developer that he decided to partner with. There was an earlier investment in a client he had when he was a lawyer that he invested, that he also wanted to invest with. And that was in his mind. He didn't want to just be a lawyer and an advisor billing time. He wanted to invest and have and ultimately have his time to be able to follow his curiosities and his infinite passions, right? His one of his idols being Benjamin Franklin. And then so you have one of his early mentors being Benjamin Graham. And they come together, both having their own separate funds, and eventually come mixed together in this unbelievable business comes as a consequence of this. It's a fascinating culture case study for company culture because it's so that part of the reason it's so vast and has been stable for so many years is the company culture that has been has occurred as a consequence of these mixing of two personalities. As Carl Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the mixing of two chemicals. If there's any reaction, both are transformed. Like it's a once in a multi-generational relationship coming together. You know, what are the values of the value investor? And I think Lawrence Cunningham is great literature on this. Maybe I'll reread that book. But what are the values of the value investor? That's what we're trying to do. That's one of the things I'm looking to accomplish. I don't want to speak for Aleck. One of the things I'm looking to accomplish in this value investor series, we interview all these amazing value investors, is to listen to what is unsaid, to take what is being said and being articulated very clearly, the conscious concepts of what value investing is, what value is, how to discover value, how to build wealth through this system, through this philosophical system. And then also looking for the patterns, what's implicit in the behaviors, the mannerisms, the stories, and the companies that are partnered with, that have been partnered with through Berkshire Hathaway and that are being partnered with, and to look at the pattern interrupts, right? The where things don't line up. That maybe that isn't necessarily value as investing, or what is value investing today versus what it was then. Like even in the fact that, or in the spirit of, and this I'll end this show with after Warren shut down his original fund, he gets Berkshire Hathaway, the textile mill, which apparently was done because of like 12 and a half cents. Um, the decision was made to keep this textile mill, which was losing money, and just take the money and invest that money. Take the money out of it and invest that money. And I think it was at first an insurance company that was bought. So it was the idea was, all right, we're going to take the insurance float and we're going to use that money because we have time before we have to pay it out to buy businesses that make money and make sense. There's something about that change up, right? That he said if they never bought See's candies, they wouldn't have bought Coca-Cola. Something about paying more than they would have liked for See's candies led to a business that has made 2+ billion in, I think, pre-tax earnings when it originally was bought for like 40 or $50 million, and then they felt as though they had overpaid. price is what you pay, value is what you get. Exploring this idea of value, exploring this idea of brand, what that means for value investing, exploring culture, the identity of organizations, and what are there things we can learn about how value investors value businesses that can teach us about what management is in the 21st century, about what management was in the 20th century, about how to not, as Munger would say, invert, always invert. What do we have to do to not screw up the business? Right? That's the management side. It's a great product. It's an amazing concept as far as a service. How do we not screw it up? How do we not undermine it? You know, how do we take this idea to the maximum level? What can we learn standing on the shoulders of giants so we can see farther? So, my recommendation here, if you're going to read along with us and listen to these episodes of the Culture Matters podcast, where we interview these value investors, me as a non-value investor, as a culture advisor, and Aleck as a value investor with Arena Securities, interviewing these world-renowned value investors, I'm trying to understand the psychological and the sociological and the historical and the autobiographical, the biographical, the 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 brain, right? The neuroscience aspects, the management frameworks, the management theories, the values, the stories, to understand the human side of it, as well as, having someone that has a background in actually, daily, on a daily basis, reading and obsessing over quarterly and annual reports and having the conversations with, it's interesting, having the conversations with, the CEOs and CFOs and all these, important parties that Alec would do to do due diligence on companies through the Culture Matters podcast. I'm constantly having conversations with entrepreneurs and executives to understand them and culture and their view on culture and their view on business. And that journalistic, there's this journalistic uh, behaviorism that's a component, it seems to be, with the idea of investing in the pursuit of value investing. It's I recommend the Poor Charlie's Almanac, 521 pages of book recommendations and interesting concepts, like right here in the introduction, Lollapalooza effect, the Lollapalooza, something outstanding of its kind, personified by Charlie Munger, the critical mass obtained via a combination of concentration, curiosity, perseverance, and self-criticism applied through a prism of multidisciplinary mental models. Throughout the book, Charlie reveals his intellect, wit, values, and no end of rhetorical flair. His encyclopedic knowledge allows him to cite reference from classical orators to 18th century, 19th century European literati to pop culture icons of the moment. Where else would you find Demosthenes and Cicero juxtaposed against Johnny Carson, or today's investment managers set against Nietzsche, Galileo, and a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest? One of my top favorite books of all time. I recommend this. I recommend Howard Marks' The Most Important Thing. I recommend Margin of Safety by Seth Klarman. Of course, Ben Graham, Security Analysis and the Intelligent Investor, David L. Dodd, Security Analysis, and Ben Graham. And um, read those books. You'll get a lot of those books. The Dondo Investor by Monish Pabrai is great. And The Education of Value Investor by Guy Spear is great. Those are great resources, helpful resources. Of course, The Davis Dynasty, I've read that before. We had Chris Cullum Davis on the Culture Matters podcast, and I really enjoyed that book. It was insightful and motivational. It's inspiring from a multi-generational perspective. And there's so many books. It's drowning. There's a great, man, Berkshire Hathaway history. It's downstairs on one of the near one of the couches. I don't recall the I have to look it up. What's his name? Maud or something? Berkshire Hathaway history. Man, I don't know. Book. I gotta say it before we get off here. Yeah, here it is. It's an amazing book. I haven't finished it yet. The Complete Financial History of Berkshire Hathaway, but Adam J. Mead, not Maud, Mead, Adam J. Mead. That's fantastic. Just well developed. He had a similar impulse to study, study, study. Of course, the shareholder letters I suggest from like 64 to 2014. This comprehensive analysis distills over 10,000 pages of research material, included Buffett's chairman letters, Berkshire Hathaway annual reports and SEC filings, annual meeting transcripts, subsidiary financials, and more. The analysis of each year is supplemented with Buffett's own commentary where relevant and examines all important acquisitions, investments, and other capital allocation decisions. It's just a fantastic, fantastic book. Um, there's a new one I'm listening to that's on Audible, and it's right here. Where's my phone? My phone is somewhere. Here it is. This is the last one I'll recommend an audiobook on Audible. It's called, I've been listening to it and I really think it's something you would like. Buffett, Buffett and Munger Unscripted by Alex W. Morris. Really fantastic audiobook that goes through all of the shareholder meetings that are available online on YouTube and puts them all, like all of the comments that Warren and Charlie make, it puts them into categories or topics and elaborates on each topic. And it so it's all of the shareholder meeting information in one audiobook. It's very helpful. Part one, value investing. Part two, valuation and intrinsic value. Part three, capital allocation. Part four, management board of directors. Those resources will get you a long way. I forgot Philip Fisher's books. You should read Philip Fisher. What's his name? Fisher. Um, Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits is a, you know, unbelievably helpful book. Philip A. Fisher. There's so much more to say, but in the spirit of this is like more of the introduction of the Value Investor series. Go listen to our episodes. Aleck Arena has been on the show 3 times at least. Just me talking to him about his career. We've interviewed Luke Winchester, Steve Baxter, Chris Cullum Davis, and Jordan Svetanovsky. And we have so many more amazing guests coming on the show, world renowned. We're leveraging Culture Matters and the brand to get some of the best examples of value investing, people that are truly, as um, Tom Gaynor would say, the spiritual advisors to companies worldwide, or the yeah, the spiritual advisors in the spirit of Charlie Munger, in my estimation, the first culture advisor. Thank you for listening to the Culture Matters podcast. Go pick up some of these books, listen to those episodes on the Culture Matters podcast, and buckle up because we're going to get in the thick of it as we go through what is value investing in the 21st century.